Yes friends, welcome back. We are at Galaxy Tutorials and we are having our second lecture of history. The first chapter, historiography, development in the West. So, in the last chapter, in the last lecture, we saw the four different characteristics of modern historiography. Okay, now where did the roots of this modern historiography come from? The roots of this modern historiography were founded in the Greek historical writings. Even the word history, the term history, was originally termed by the famous Greek historian Herodotus. In the 5th century, he wrote a book and he titled the book as the Histories. So the word history, the term history comes from the Greek word. It's a Greek word, it comes from, it was termed by the Greek historian Herodotus. Okay. Now, as I said, one of the characteristics of modern historiography is it is based on scientific principles. Now we are going to study how this scientific perspective developed, where did it develop, and how it developed. Okay, this scientific perspective in studying modern historiography, it was developed in the West, in Europe. Okay, till the 18th century, most of there was a lot of progress. In the 18th century, there was a lot of progress made in Europe in terms of, in the fields of philosophy, in the field of science. There a lot of progress was been made in Europe. Okay, so the scholars started believing that you can study historical truth through scientific methods. The scholars now they started thinking, okay, yeah, now we can see, they have started believing in science. So they said we can study historical truth through scientific methods. Okay, so now the philosophical discussions were focused more and more on objectivity in history and historiography. So more and more they started discussing about the objectives in historiography. Okay. Now, before the 18th century, all the European universities were interested only in philosophical discussions revolving around the divine phenomena. Okay, divine, what is happening, everything, they believe that what is happening, what is in the world or in this universe is because of God's grace, it's a divine phenomena. However, slowly as the scientific perspective increased, this changed. Okay, and for the first time in 1737 in Germany, in a university called Göttingen, in the Göttingen University in Germany, in 1737, an independent department of history was established. Okay, they formed an independent department to study history, and this was further followed by other German universities. Okay. Now, so as the scientific perspective increased, people started believing in science. Okay, there was a lot of progress in field of philosophy and science in Europe. So the many scholars who have contributed to the development of modern historiography, most were Europeans, most of them were French, rather to say. Okay, and one foremost of them was René Descartes. Okay, he insisted that, what he insisted, René insisted that verifying the reliability of historical documents by critically examining them. He insisted that you just can't believe on any evidence. Okay, you have to first critical examine them whether it is authentic or not, and that is very very important. Okay, and for that he set up rules in his book, and he named that book as the Discourse on the Method. Means, sorry, there were certain rules on how a particular document can be authenticated. Okay, what he said, what Renner said was that never to accept anything for true till all grounds of doubt are excluded. Matlab, till all your doubts are cleared. Don't accept any document as a true document unless all your doubts, whatever doubts you have in your mind, they should get cleared first. Once those doubts get cleared, then only you can say that you should believe that that particular document is true. You can authenticate the document. Okay. Thus, after Rene, another important historian, another important scholar. Okay. He too was a French scholar. His name was Voltaire. According to his opinion, along with the objective truth and chronology, other important things which has to be included in historiography are the social traditions, the trade, economy, agriculture, etc. That too is also important. Not only the king and the emperors are important, along with the social practices of that time, the trade, how the trade has been done at that time, how is the economy of that time, what are the agriculture ways of that time. That too is important, and that should also be included in history. Okay, so in modern historiography it is said that all social attributes, all this should be taken into consideration. Okay. So, what he said was that understanding all aspects of human life is important for history writing. Okay, not writing only about the kings and the emperors, but the king and the queen. Okay, it's also important of all aspects of human life. They should be also included in history. So, that is the reason why Voltaire is called the founder of modern historiography. Okay, this is the reason why Voltaire is called the founder of modern historiography. After him, another important scholar, he was a German philosopher, Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Hegel was a German philosopher. He insisted now that this historical reality, whatever historical you are authenticating it, okay, this historical thing, now they should be presented in a very very logical way, in a logical manner. Okay, to him, the timeline of historical events was indicative of progress. The chronology, the timeline, okay, that shows what? How human being, how mankind progressed. Okay. He also thought that the presentation of history is bound to change over time as new evidence will come forth. He said, okay, as years go by, new evidences will come. Naturally, as new evidences will come, henceforth new evidence will come, what will happen is that the presentation is going to change. So because of Hegel, many scholars became convinced that historical methods were not of lesser quality, though they differed from scientific methods. Scientific methods, as I told you in my previous lecture, you can still go to a laboratory and prove what a scientist has said thousands of years back. History, you cannot remake those events, but because of Hegel, scholars they were convinced that historical truths were no less far back or far behind the scientific methods. Okay? The collection of his lectures, Hegel's lectures and articles are published in a book, and the name of the book is Encyclopedia of Philosophical Sciences. Remember, you will have to memorize all these book titles of these books and who wrote them, the authors of this book. This is very. It may come in match the followings also. It may come as MCQs, 1 mark question, anything. Okay. His book. He has written another book, Reasons in History. Reason in History. That is also well known. Okay. Now in this yellow square, let us, what has been written about Hegel, we'll just go through it. According to Hegel, grasping the meaning of any event happens in terms of two direct opposites. Okay, human mind cannot understand the true nature of that event without understanding the opposite. This what Hegel said was that everything, just like each and every coin has a head and a tail. Similarly, each and every event has a good thing or a bad thing. It's true or it's false. Everything is either true or either false, either good or either bad. Okay, so the particular event you have to see in both the perspectives. In a good perspective you have to see, as well as you have to see it in a bad perspective. You have to see it as a true statement, you have also see it as a false statement. Okay. This, he said, this is how you have to analyze each and every statement. That is what Hegel said. Okay. This method of analysis, which is based on opposites, Hegel's method of analysis based on opposite, is also known as dialectics. It's known as what? Dialectics. Okay. In this method, what happens is that in this method, a theory is proposed at the beginning. What you do in the beginning is that you propose a theory. This is called a thesis. And then you propose another theory which is just contrary to it, just the opposite of it. And that is called as antithesis. And then you do a discussion on the thesis as well as the antithesis. And what emerges of this discussion is called a new theory will come out, and this is called synthesis. Okay, remember you have to go through it, understand what you mean by dialectics, what you mean by thesis, what you mean by antithesis. Okay, just as I said, every statement is true or false, good or bad. You have to, based on that statement, based on the good part of it, you have to make a theory. On the bad part of it, you have to make a theory. Then you have to see the true side of it, make a theory on it. False side of it, make a theory on it. Then have a discussion on it. Okay, so first thing what you do, a theory you propose is called a thesis. Then you propose another theory on the same statement, which is contrary to the first theory, which is opposite to the first theory. That is called the antithesis. Then you have a thorough discussion on this thesis as well as antithesis, and you will form what? A new theory, and that is called a synthesis. Okay, this is very, very important. Okay, then we'll come to the fourth scholar, and that fourth scholar is Leopold von Ranke. So, historiography of the 19th century was greatly influenced by the thoughts of Leopold. Okay? He was from the Berlin University. He spoke about the critical method of historical research. He put emphasis on utmost importance of information gathered through original documents. He also stated that all types of documents associated with the historical event need to be examined with great care. He said his emphasis was, what was his emphasis on? His emphasis was on the importance of the original document. Okay, and how to believe that it is original? We have learned it before, that you have to ask questions, get your doubts cleared. Then you can consider that it is an authentic document, it is an original document. So he said, what Leopold said was that you have to give utmost importance to this document, original document. Okay? And all types of documents associated with the historical event need to be examined with great care. He believed that with this method, it was possible to reach to the historical truth. Okay, if you go to the original document with utmost care, you will come to the historical truth. He criticized imaginative narration of history. He never liked. There were some scholars who used to imagine things. He was against it. Okay. So, collection of his articles, whatever he has written, is published in 2 books. Leopold has written 2 books. One entitled The Theory and the Practice of History. Remember, the theory and practice of history, and the second one is The Secret of World History. Okay? So that was all about Leopold. And now we come to another important philosopher. Okay, who spread socialism, and he is the great Karl Marx. Okay, as you all must be knowing what Karl Marx said. You must have read it in your previous, in the 8th or 9th standard. 8th standard maybe, in 8th standard, that Karl Marx has stated, what he has stated, his important slogan. What was it? Workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. I'll come to that later on. What does it mean? Okay. First, let us see what he has contributed to historiography. Okay. So in the later half of the 19th century, a new school of thought arose, keeping in view a thesis formulated by Karl Marx. Now, what Karl Marx wanted to say? Karl Marx said history is not about abstract ideas. It was about living people. History is not just abstract something. It is what history, what you are doing, what you are writing, what you are studying. It is life of people who are actually living in that era. Okay. So he believed that human relationships are shaped on the fundamental, what was the fundamental? Needs of people and the ownership. Okay, what people need and who own those needs, as well as nature or prevalent means of production to meet those needs. Okay, what Karl Marx proposed was that history is depends on what? Human relationships, and human relationships are shaped by certain fundamental things like needs of people and who owns the needs and how the needs are being produced. Okay? How the needs are not being produced, how production is made to satisfy those needs. The production is made to satisfy those needs. Okay? The accessibility of this means to different strata of the society may not be equal. This inequality causes a division in the society. Okay? What he said was that the accessibility, the accessibility of means to different strata of society is not equal. Means some part of the society is accessible to certain things in a better way, and some part of the society is not at all accessible to certain things. So this creates division in the society, and this division in the society he called them classes. And these classes, when there are 2 types of classes, there is going to be a struggle between these 2 classes. Okay, and according to Marx, human history is the history of the class struggle. Struggle between those who have and those who don't have. Those who have certain things and those who don't have certain things. This is according to him, history was this class struggle. Because according to him, those people or that class which owns the production. Production of goods which satisfy the needs. There is a section of the society which owns production of goods which satisfy the needs of people. Okay, these people, what they do? They exploit the people who need those goods. Okay, he wrote a book called Das Kapital. He believed, now I'll come to the statement which I made earlier. What he said that a worker in a factory is as important as the owner of the factory. He said to the workers of the factory that you should get united to fight for your rights. But you're going to lose. Anyway, your owner is exploiting you. Then why don't you come united? If you come together, if you get united, what will happen is that nothing, you are not going to lose anything. Only what you are going to lose is your chains. Means you have been treated as slaves today. That your bondage will be lost. Okay, so that's why he said, workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. At that same time, a school came. Another school, it's called, means a way of thinking. A school means a way of thinking. That is called another school. That was at the onset of the 20th century. A new school of historiography arose in France, and that school's name is another school. This another school gave a new direction to history writing. It was recognized by now, as Voltaire had put. Voltaire, we call him the founder of modern historiography. What he had said, that history is not only about political events, history is not only about great leaders, history about technology, about local people, local agriculture, local climate, trade, technology, okay, means of communication. So, another school believed in this, okay, that it is a means of communication, social division, and their collective psychology is also important. So when you write history, you have to write about the way of living of the people. Okay, their thinking, their collective psychology. Okay, so the another school was started by the French historians. Okay. Now, all scholars which names I have taken so far were all males. Now how women can't remain behind. Okay, so now let's have a look at the feminist historiography. Feminist historiography means restructuring